Alright, the first thing to change the wheel bearing obviously is to take off the tire. There's no sense showing that, because if you can't take off the tire, you're not going to be able to do this job. Secondly, you do this at any point in time, but your ABS wire, which is this, secondly is your ABS wire, you need to disconnect that and start pulling that up to the switch up there, get that all loose. And then we need to remove the 2 caliper bolts and remove the caliper. And we're going to take this cap off, remove the little nut behind there, and then we're going to get ready to rock and roll. There we go. Next step, to remove these 2 18mm bolts. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but this light is just flat. But anyways, since it turned out dark in the video, you take a screwdriver or something and you tap it and kind of pry it out. It doesn't really come out as simple as you may think. As you can see right here, mine kind of got damaged a little bit, so I'm going to have to round it out a little bit before I put her back in. Then what you see here, I believe that is a 13mm. Sometimes they get rusted on pretty good and you really got to bang them off. Now on the back side of the bearing there's 4 bolts. One, other one right down below there. From the side view you can see one here and one there. You can identify them by the bolt ends sticking out from the front. Once you broke them free, then they should just easily spin out. Now in theory this bearing should just pull off the front. As you can see, it's kind of fucked up. There we go. Now if you can see the shaft where it's been blued here, that's not a good sign at all. That means that these little roller bearings inside, they're really dry, are starting to fail and get hot, and that's why that shaft is like the way it is. Make sure your wheel bearing's super greased up before you stick her back in. Make sure the spline's got lots of grease, and around here you got a layer of grease in it. Now we're ready to put the bearing back on. Remember, the orientation for your ABS goes to the back here. When you're putting it in, you want to make sure, it's very important that your splines mesh. And if your splines meshed, you should be able to turn your whole axle assembly. And it should be able to go in flush. And if it does, start putting your bolts back in. When putting the caliper back on, it's just as easy. Put a couple nuts on the rotor to hold it in place while you assemble it. Yeah, make sure you run your ABS line back the way it came. Plug it in up top where it meets the other plug for the sensor. And I just added a couple little zip ties here because the aftermarket bearing, the connectors don't really fit well in the factory holes, so I don't want the wire coming loose and wreck it, and that'll be the end of that. So that's it, we're done. Put the tire back on. Yeah, this bearing's definitely on its way out. Turns pretty easy. It's kind of rough in sections. Alright, it's motherfucking beer time now. I'm going to end my video in replacing the wheel bearing in your F150 4x4. It's actually a pretty easy job. My truck, because I live in the north, experiences a lot of ice, harsh weather, and rust, so I was still able to get it off without issues. The only reason why I started to replace the wheel bearing is because the vacuum hub was shot. So if I have to take it that far apart, I might as well just replace the hub as well, because it's got almost 200,000 kilometers. Otherwise, normally when your wheel bearing's going, you'll definitely hear it when you're driving. You'll hear a hum, more so when you start turning. And there's other things too, but it's motherfucking beer time. If you have any questions or comments, post them below. Otherwise, thanks for watching.